Hi, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about what is the difference between guilt and shame. So we'll talk about each of those individually and talk about what happens when you're feeling both of them at the same time.
As we looked at the root words and kind of where the idea of the words guilt and shame came from in the English language, it was really fascinating to see that guilt was associated more with a not being a failure of a duty kind of an idea, something that you didn't do, and then shame was a really interesting. It wasn't really. It's been a modern kind of a new modern way that we understand the word shame. Back when it was first kind of brought into the English language, it was more like being bashful or being kind of just something that wasn't as heavy and dark as it is now. But now we understand what shame is, and it's something that is um, causing a lot of problems. I know Brene Brown says secrets make you sick, and a shame is something that causes. We seem to hide those parts of us that we think are shameful, and it's something to explore whether that's true or not, whether those parts are shameful or not.
Right.
So we're going to discuss that and explore that today. Shame and guilt feel really similar in the body. I think um, the way the heart beats, the way the breathing patterns are, um, they seem to be similar to me when I think about them. And make sure that you comment below if you have any other ideas. But just think for a minute how it affects you. We all have those moments of guilt when we feel kind of caught. You kind of feel caught.
We've done something wrong.
Yes. And what does that feel like in the body? It's kind of like a surprise kind of a feeling, and then like Brene Brown says, then the warm wash of shame spreads out over you. You get kind of like a hot tingly feel that goes over your body, and you think, oh no, that's what I've done. And when it's guilt, then there's an easy step to take to remedy it. But shame seems like it's not able to overcome as easily. So that's what we want to kind of explore today.
Yeah, so guilt and shame are the two lowest recorded vibration of emotion. So we've talked in an earlier episode about the chart of emotions from the book Power versus Force. And in that, they're actually able to detect or discern the vibrational level of each emotion. And that ranges from 0 to 1,000. So 0 being the lowest vibration emotion, 1,000 being the highest, and that 1,000 state was enlightenment. But there's love, peace, and joy at 600, 700, 800 ranges, those kind of numbers. And guilt and shame were the two that were the bottom of the list at 20 and 40. And so if you talk about how that feels in the body, that is a very heavy, dense, difficult feeling to hold and difficult feeling to move sometimes, because it's just such a low, hard feeling. When you feel guilt and shame together, it has almost a paralyzing effect, or it can catalyze you into action. It can become a catalyst for your action. Sometimes that guilt is so painful, it moves us into action where we make amends, we repair the damage, we undo what we did, whatever it takes to release that guilt. And so that can be helpful for us. But there is a difference where guilt tends to be more associated with behavior. Shame tends to be more associated with understanding of self or sense of self. So where guilt would say, I did something wrong, shame would say, I am wrong. And that's challenging.
That's challenging.
Yeah. So we want to express or talk about each emotion a little bit more depth. Um, when we do something wrong, it can be appropriate to feel guilt or to feel guilty. But that emotion is meant to be a teacher. When we do something wrong and we feel that guilt, that can teach us, I don't want to do this again. This doesn't make me feel good. I'm not happy with the results. I'm not liking this outcome. And so guilt can become our teacher in that way. And we can take the steps we need to, like Michelle said, to repair something that we've done that we're not happy with. But excessive guilt is one of the biggest detriments to self-esteem, self-love, when you tend to beat yourself up over and over and over again, and you replay that mistake again and again and again. That is one of the biggest destroyers of self-esteem, of individuality, of creativity, and of your own personal development. And so you want to be mindful of that you don't allow guilt to overcome you or overtake you. Some things we do intentionally that hurt others, some things we don't even do intentionally, and our actions still hurt others. Some things we do thoughtfully and with intention, and some things we fail to do that cause pain for others. So there's many types of things that can cause us to feel guilt, but the important thing to realize is that we can take responsibility for our action or our inaction. We can repair the damage that has been done and restore whatever we need to, so that we can move forward and step out of that guilt.
I think that's the biggest difference between guilt and shame. If you are feeling the emotion that you might think is guilt or shame, it would be helpful to write down, what could you do to repair it? And in shame, there's not a repair unless you almost take yourself out,
Yeah, true.
And I'm not really sure that shame is fully necessary. I don't know if it's something that we've kind of put upon each other and taken upon ourselves versus an actual something that we need to experience and flow through. I think guilt can do that well. Guilt can be a teacher. Shame keeps us isolated and away from others. It stops us from connection, which is, I think, is our one of our core needs, is to be connected. And shame just doesn't allow for connection.
And we weren't born with shame.
Right.
We didn't
I don't
come
think we
here
were
feeling shame.
Have you heard the idea, they say if we go into a classroom with kindergartners and ask everybody to raise their hand, who can draw? You've got almost every hand up, full high up in the sky, and we did that same question to a group of adults. There would be very few that would raise their hand.
Yeah.
Very judgmental and shameful about what they would present forward as a picture being asked to draw. Not so much for the young ones. That's just what they do. And I think it's beautiful, and I think that is where we should naturally be. Somehow, I think if we can learn to accept ourselves and kind of push away or try and get rid of thoughts of shame, try either with logic or with emotions of compassion, then if we can do that for ourselves, then we can do that for humanity and make ourselves a united group of human beings. It's important to get shame to where it needs to be, that it's an untruth. It's a popping up of untruth. I think that's what it is, and that's why it feels so heavy, I think, in the body.
That. So go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comment below. What do you see as a difference between guilt and shame? And in our next video, we're going to talk about how to get rid of those emotions and give you some more tips and tricks about how to move past guilt and shame so that you can be free. We really don't want you carrying that emotional baggage or bondage with you in your life, and there's no need to. There's no need to. Everybody's human. We all make mistakes, and so allow yourself the space to be forgiven, to love yourself, and to move forward. We hope you subscribe if this video has been helpful to you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.